Welcome to the Long Take Review, where four college professors talk film, providing insight, not assigning homework. I'm your host, Jen Sipchak-Bankard, and I'm here with three names that Marlon Wayans cannot pronounce. First, he still got nominated, even though no one saw his movie. It's P.T. McNiv. How's it going, P.T.?
Timothée Chalamet is here too, and can I just say, you have the most gorgeous eyelashes on your upper lip. I'm doing well, Jen. How are you?
I'm doing great. I had forgotten about that. And he's just happy to be nominated in cinematic and box office achievement. It's Greg Cass. How's it going, Greg?
Dude, your name sounds like something Adam Sandler would say. Chalamet.
Perfect. And last but not least, he went from might not make it in to the front runner in his category. It's Antonio Elefano. How are you doing, Antonio?
Show you a pair of Golden Globes.
Okay. I suppose all of that was in the spirit of what we're talking about today. Dear listeners, those were all references to the nominations for this year's Golden Globe Awards, which were announced first thing this morning. Those noms plus all the critics groups and nominations or winners that have been announced in the past week. So it's been a really busy week for awards pundits, and it's just sort of like been an onslaught of one critics group after the next. And so we thought that warranted an episode entirely devoted to checking the temperature of the Oscar race. Who's up? Who's down? Who's still hanging on by a thread? We are eager to discuss. PT, if listeners don't want to snub us after listening to this episode, what can they do?
If you would like to take home an armful of awards from us, please follow the Long Take Review wherever you get your podcasts. We host the feed on Jen's Substack at thelongtake.substack.com. But you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, YouTube, and many more. Any place you get podcasts, you can find us there. You can also follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the Long Take Review. We are also on Letterboxd. The account is at LTR Pod, or you can search for the hashtag LTR Pod to see what each of us individually has been watching. Jen?
Thanks, BT. So we are just about ready to break down these nominations. But first, we haven't had one of these in a while. We have a massive and largely unavoidable movie news update.
Just in off the wire, it's your Hollywood news.
I've missed that. I missed.
What an ass!
It's the best. It's the best sound drop we have.
It really is. It's great. I don't know. Why did we get rid of movie news anyway? So you may not know about this news. Who wants to go try to explain concisely what has happened in the movie industry that is shaking everybody?
I'll try to explain it concisely and potentially incorrectly so people can fill in the gaps. But Warner Brothers Discovery, which is the obviously one of the major studios, one of the founding Hollywood studios, Warner Brothers, and they had been part of Time Warner. They spun off into Warner Brothers Discovery. That was a whole thing a few years ago between Discovery Plus and HBO Max merging. They're up for sale again because I don't know why. They're not making enough money, or other people just have more money. And so there were three bidders that were coming in to try to buy them: Comcast, Universal, Paramount, and was Paramount Skydance, I think now is the company name, and Netflix. And it was announced earlier this week, or at the end of last week, I should say, that Netflix would win the bidding, which led to a lot of consternation because of Netflix being a streaming service and Warner Brothers being traditionally theatrical releases. And how is that all going to work out? And just general media consolidation problems. With the silver lining being there had been some concern that there would be federal meddling in favor of Paramount because the Ellison family that runs Paramount Skydance now are big donors to the president of the United States. And so I was like, well, okay, I guess it's not those people. And then today or yesterday, it was, as of recording, Monday, December 8th, Paramount was like, okay, great. Well, we're just going to try to do a hostile takeover and just offer more money and hope that the stockholders in Warner Brothers Discovery choose to go with our bid, backed by Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and the Saudi Arabian government financially, that they will be like, yes, we'll sell to them instead. So yeah, it's bad. Everything's bad, and nothing good will come of it. Jen, back to you.
Don't throw it back to me after that. I can't follow up that. So, what I'll say is that as someone who follows a lot of movie podcasts, and in particular, a lot of movie industry podcasts, or movies that like to talk about the industry in relation to the movies that they're reviewing or whatever, there's a lot of hand wringing that is going on, a lot of panicking, and mostly because I guess there was a shareholders call, or one of those calls that business people refer to, in which Ted Sarandos of Netflix was sort of saying, oh, we're going to honor all of the agreements of all the Warner Brothers movies, but then got kind of shifty with his language and said, but then eventually we're going to evolve the model to be more consumer friendly. And this is the thing that people are panicking about, because they're like, is Warner Brothers essentially just going to get swallowed up, and everything that's Warner Brothers is just going to become something on Netflix? And a lot of people don't like that idea. But Antonio or Greg, what were your reactions when you heard this news initially?
I didn't feel good, Jen. I felt bad. So, I think I've made no, secret of the fact that at least 3/4 of my personality is going to the movie theater and seeing new movies. And this endangers all of that. It endangers it because if Netflix is only driven by subscribers, they're not going to be putting movies out into theaters, or they're going to shorten that theatrical window. They've had some success this fall putting Frankenstein and Jay Kelly and Train Dreams and Wake Up Dead Man out for limited runs, but they're very short. And that's, they're really almost just promotional or awards based runs to kind of clear the way for those. And that could be the norm for what is one of 3 big studios. And that could spell big time disaster for these theater chains that are relying on a certain number of movies to keep bodies in the building and people buying popcorn. So that's my fear number 1. Fear number 2, if you're Netflix and you control a vast library of Warner Brothers, holdings, IP after IP, right? All of DC, all of Harry Potter, all of Lord of the Rings, Barbie, on and on and on. If you control all of that, what are you going to do when you get approached for these rep screenings, right? That have become kind of wildfire around the country as theaters see good business bringing out classic movies over and over again. I don't understand why Netflix would want you to do that when you would have, you would have to go home and stream it on their service, and you'd have to subscribe to them. So those things are all bad. And I will say, of the news of the day, Paramount was not going to be the hero, and I didn't want them to come through. So I think it just means bad things for the industry. I am among the hand wringers, wringing my hands because this hurts all the parts of the industry I care about. Antonio, who hurt you?
I'll be perfectly honest. This part of the industry news is like stuff I don't pay that much attention to, and I was excited to hear it just so that you could explain it to me. But out of curiosity, given the bidders, what was the best possible outcome for you all?
I would say Comcast of the 3, but it is the lesser of 3 evils. The big picture has been making jokes for the last couple of weeks that we need a secret billionaire with good politics to step forward and just benevolently buy this studio to keep releasing cool movies. And I think we all knew that wasn't going to happen. So I don't think there was a good guy in the race. But
unless it's season 2 of the studio.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's like weirdly aligned with, this is not a spoiler necessarily, but I'll vaguely say that the end of season 1 of the studio seems prophetic in retrospect. That's all I'll say. So I think part of the reason this news is so shocking to people is because every time I listen to some kind of analyst, journalist, podcaster rank the likelihood of who was going to win the bid, Netflix was always in third. And so the idea that all of a sudden it's like, oh no, it's Netflix. Everyone's like, what? We didn't see that coming at all. And the thing is, like, all four of us really value movies coming out in theaters. Obviously, if you're listening to the show, hopefully you know that. But, there's a lot of people, like, if you're someone who only watches things at home, does this news necessarily upset them? No, I don't think, you know what I mean? Like, so we do have to acknowledge kind of the unique perspective that we and other people in the industry who are upset about this might have. I think the big question mark to me is because with a lot of corporate sales or mergers or whatever, oftentimes the company that has been bought is largely intact and just the other company is profiting off of what they're doing. But I think the big concern is that the underlying motivation for Netflix to purchase Warner Brothers would be to eliminate it as competition, right? And to kind of take it off the board, subsume all of its content, its library, to increase the appeal that Netflix subscribers, right? And to be like, oh look, now all the Harry Potter movies live on Netflix instead of on HBO Max, right? So I think there's a lot of questions in the air. The other thing too to keep in mind is that like this is going to take years to resolve, most likely, right? So just because the deal went through doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen, and that somehow and the Netflix logo is going to be all over Warner Brothers stuff tomorrow, right? That's sort of not the situation. Obviously, that doesn't make it less dire. It just makes it less immediate. But the other thing is like that we haven't talked about yet is that this has flagged a lot of antitrust politicians or kind of legislators to be like, this is not okay, just in general, regardless of it being about movies, right? And so that could also kind of play a factor in the outcome of this potentially. So there's a lot of game time left, I think, is sort of what I'm saying.
Yeah. To your point, Antonio, I think the answer I would have to what was the best option is someone or a collection of people become in charge of the federal government who are like, maybe we shouldn't have monopolies. Maybe every major company, especially media companies, shouldn't be allowed to merge. And then there's only like 2 or 3 global unicorps that run everything. That's not, likely to happen or certainly won't happen for a while. So even if this takes a few years, I don't know. I don't know what the choice is. At this point, it feels like, I agree with Greg, it could have been Comcast Universal, but I'm sure if they had gotten it, then it would be like, here's all the problems with Comcast. That would have, looked terrible. So yeah, the good news question mark is that things shouldn't happen for a little while. And hopefully there's some degree of slow playing. But that also means there's less space for shenanigans to try to, see who's going to get what and what deals will be made that are not in the best interest of, obviously, again, us, as Jen said, is unique theater going people who like movies in the theaters, but just in general, all audience members, even people who just like to sit at home and turn on Netflix and find something. It's possible things would will get worse because of deals that are made, whatever they may be. So I don't know. Yeah, not great.
The new headline that may be the happiest coming out of, like, in response to this was that Christopher Nolan, who's the president of the DGA, was like, I'm taking a meeting. The whole article was basically like, Christopher Nolan's on it. He's going to go yell at some people. So hopefully, and just picturing that makes me happy. So we'll see what, if anything, comes of that. The other piece of this too, that directly impacts what we're interested in on the show in terms of the Oscars is that there could be a real sour moment in the ceremony in the spring if, because Warner Brothers arguably has the number 1 and number 2 top contenders for Best Picture. So like if one battle after another wins Best Picture, how hollow a victory is that going to be for a lot of people in the audience? Because they know that's now like sort of a Netflix, functionally a Netflix win too. Or just it will just kind of like taint that win for the studio.
My closing thought on this, and it's definitely me who should be saying this, is we should remember that any kind of consolidation like this means job losses. And Hollywood is hurting right now. LA is hurting right now. And it's easy to look at really rich movie stars and say, oh, poor babies. There's a lot of people in this industry that are suffering already. And if we're consolidating and reducing the number of productions, it's only going to get worse in LA. So I'm happy to speak up for your city, you ungrateful fools.
Thanks, Greg.
You
All
guys
right.
cover Boston, whatever news we cover later today.
All right. So I think that's probably enough to say about this for now. We just wanted to kind of like since it's such big news in our world, that it felt like it would be weird to not comment on this. But I'm sure this is not the last time this is going to come up or interfere with our enjoyment of the movies. So now I want to move on to talking about hopefully happier things. We got a fresh batch of Golden Globe nominations this morning. I kind of structured our conversation so that like we can bring in references to the other precursors that were in the past week or so as needed. But obviously the biggest news is the Golden Globes, I think, at this point. So in general, I would want to start with a happy thing. What made you the happiest out of these nominations, or just like in terms of what's been happening on the award circuit this week?
I'll start with the happiest. My happiest pick was No Other Choice, not only being an international film, but making the slate for best dramatic picture. No Other Choice. We've all four of us have seen it now, but it hasn't opened widely. So, especially with international features, it's with the Golden Globes. I mean, which is an international whatever. Oh, it's a musical comedy.
Yes.
Sorry, No Other Choice and best musical comedy, but just making the best picture
It's in
field
both.
at all.
It's in both non-English language and
right,
best
but not
yet.
drama. It's not on the drama.
Oh, sure.
Drama.
Yes.
I was
Drama.
That makes sense. Yes, best comedy. Thank you, PT. I'm just happy that it made the best picture slate at all, and the idea that it could potentially make the best picture, like it, as this is a potential precursor for the Oscars, it just excites me to no end. What about you, Off?
I piggyback on that. That was probably my favorite from the Golden Globe, and I will just add that in Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, Lee Byung-hun is also in there, which is wonderful. I highly doubt that he'll be able to get enough traction to get into the 5 at the Academy, but he should be. He should be in contention when we get to the letters next month, presumably. I think he's going to get at least one nomination from here because it will be from me. So he gives a wonderful performance. I will jump back from the Golden Globes because this is a movie that did not do well at the Golden Globes. But I will jump over to the Los Angeles Film Critics Association Awards, whom Greg pays a lot of attention to because he loves LA.
I was going to say, now you care about LA.
And they gave best cinematography to Train Dreams. And I had said recently on Adolfo Veloso is the name of the cinematographer. And I had said in a Letterboxd comment only a day or two before that I was thinking of making Train Dreams needs to get at least nominated, if not win, in cinematography. My whole personality for the next month or two. But they've got my back. The LA Film Critics got my back. So that's nice that they're in there. And I think there was like an honorable mention somewhere for that movie as well, but I could be wrong. No, I'm wrong. It's just that was it. But still, that was very good, and that's the perfect place for it because that movie is gorgeous. So I'm glad, part of the magic of these film critics. There's something about this is coalescing the picture of what's going to happen in the awards race, but separate from that, it's also just like, oh, we get to throw some spotlights, or we get to see spotlights be thrown on some of these different movies and some of the aspects of them that are really good. And I think that's a movie that, to our aforementioned conversation, was in theaters for like 3 days, I think, at least here in LA, and then suddenly was just sort of put on Netflix. And not the best context in which to watch it because it's very meditative and very reflective, but very beautiful, very well shot. So I'm glad that got recognition. Greg, how about you?
I want to put in a pin into the theme of, wow, the Golden Globes look a lot more international than they usually have before. And I think Antonio's pick, highlights that. And then there's just a slew more, which I think is interesting as a trend. There is still some Globe shenanigans of we just like famous people, but they are trending more international. And Train Dreams, that one is well deserved, and I was surprised to see Joel Edgerton sneak in to actor as well, which is well deserved. I mean, that whole movie hangs on him and our beloved LTR favorite Carrie Condon. But it's really his movie, and well deserved. So I will just go. When I was scrolling through, my biggest surprise was Eva Victor for Sorry Baby getting into actress, which was a pick I loved to see. And not just because that movie's been kind of quietly cranking out the awards on my Vulture movie draft. So that was a very cheap movie that I think I got towards the end because it was only $1 or $2 and I was just filling in. And she has picked up prizes for acting, for directing, some debut features, and even just some good old fashioned, one of the 10 best movies of the year type award. So I don't think I had predicted when I picked it in movie draft that kind of gem from this summer would kind of keep getting on there. I'll pass it to you, Jen, and I know. Sorry Baby is one of your 4 favorites right now, although I suspect it's just because it has a cat in it and not because it's actually a movie you enjoy. But what surprised you, or do you want to talk about really good sandwiches or cats? Either way.
Well, yeah. Everyone's steadily been taking my picks, basically, because at first I was gonna say No Other Choice, and then I was like, okay, when Antonio took that, I was like, okay, well, at least I have Sorry Baby, and then I still haven't managed to actually watch Train Dreams. I've watched maybe the first 15 minutes of it, and it's lovely, but I just got interrupted and haven't been able to return to it. So
stays lovely the whole time. It's you don't have to worry about it. Just go back and enjoy how calm and chill it is for the rest of the movie.
But I'll just say that there are certain performances or actors that I had kind of written off because of earlier precursors or just how the movies have been received, and they are kind of on the bubble in terms of, or on the outside looking in terms of Oscar nominations, and that would be Jacob Elordi for Frankenstein. I was really happy to see that he got in, even if it's this is all he's going to get, which is very possible, and his journey ends here at the Globes. But I was really happy that at least he gets some recognition for that performance. And then Cynthia Erivo, just when I was counting her out, came back and got a nomination here. So and again, that might be just because they want. It's a Globes move of we want Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande at the ceremony, and so we're going to nominate them. But I think a lot of people had written her off because she had sort of been snubbed at a bunch of other precursors. I'm not thinking of the specific ones off the top of my head, but I think Critics' Choice she missed, and they had 6 nominees, so that looked extra bad. And so even though Wicked for Good is not as good as Wicked, and that people aren't warmly receiving the movie as much as I would have hoped, being a fan of the first one, I'm still happy that she's hanging on by a thread. That's who I was referencing in my opening comment. Well, I guess so. We'll now switch over to what disappointed you the most, or what I can also add disappointed or confused you the most. What on here has you scratching your head, or what is doing well that you're huh? Why is this a thing?
I think Greg should go first because he was the first to text us with his thoughts on this.
I mean, I have a few. So my biggest what was definitely seeing Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson show up for Smashing Machine. I mean, I don't think we need to beat that movie any more than we did in that pun intended for our review of Smashing Machine. That was not a good movie. And I think, we did have some compliments for the two of them in the roles they were asked to complete, but that to me was my first moment this morning where I was just oh, Golden Globes, you're still you still want 2 very attractive people sitting at tables. We're there. I'm sure The Rock will present because he's got to start promoting Moana. So, we're in for it. But those were the 2 acting nominations I was really sad for. I have some disappointments I want to talk about later, but that was my big what? Although please somebody else pick cinematic achievement, because we got to talk through that list.
We
at
will
some
talk
point,
about
too.
that. Yes.
That's where I was going to go. So Antonio, if you have one.
Surprise or disappointment?
This is the umbrella of disappointment, but I would classify confusion, like you're scratching your head at under disappointment, because it's kind of like a, why did that get nominated? But yeah, but if you want to just go straight up disappointment, that's fine.
I mean, honestly, part of what's kind of fun about the Golden Globes, and also kind of frustrating, to Greg's point, is that the Golden Globes, because you have a comedy category and a drama category, you have these bigger tents, and so interesting stuff can pop up, and things that you're sort of like, that you know probably isn't going to make it to on the Academy's list, can make it here. So the thing that sort of was disappointing was that there weren't that many like picks that weren't already sort of anointed by critics beforehand, um, and there were certain things that I was holding out hope for, like long shots that I thought could have been fun, like Black Bag. I still think was excellent, and to have seen that in comedy represented anywhere, right? Like in the acting categories for Michael Fassbender, Kate Blanchett for the supporting roles, or for the film itself. But it's just been a really strong year for comedies too, right? An unusually strong year for comedies. History of Sound or Kelly Reichardt, like either of them making their way on here would have been really fun and interesting. For me, the most disappointing was actually as well as Sinners did, and Sinners has done well. Like Sinners has done excellent, both at the Golden Globes and through the Critics Awards. I would have loved to see the supporting actors, Wunmi Masaku or Delroy Lindo or someone else, in that long bench of excellent actors represented. But that's that was basically it. I think overall, with the exception of Greg's choices for just like two rough picks, I thought overall it was a pretty good slate. But what do you two think?
Well, I have two things, and I apologize, Jen, if what that means is I've left you with nothing. But my biggest surprise, I think, was the double Richard Linklater movies in Best Musical or Comedy. Neither of which I feel like people were saying, like Blue Moon is one of those things where like Ethan Hawke has got a really strong case. So it was like, oh, at the Globes when it split up, yeah, maybe that's enough to get in there. But then to also have Nouvelle Vague nominated, which is a good movie, like that, it's fine, like okay, but seems very strange, and especially when there were two actual musicals, including Wicked for Good.
A bad day for musicals.
Yeah, and the Testament of Anne Lieb, and I'm sure there are other potential options out there too, but both of those movies got nominated elsewhere, and but it couldn't make it into Best Picture because what are we going to do? It's Francis Ford Coppola's 1974 all over again. We got to recognize Richard Linklater twice. We just have to do it. So there's that. And I also will just, I will say this and then I will leave it to Jen what she wants to do with this. But cinematic and box office achievement, putting in a movie that no one outside of a few critics has seen and has not opened yet to go into the box office in Avatar, Fire and Ash, pristine Golden Globes move. Where they're just like, well, yeah, this is going to make money, so I guess we have to nominate that here. Wonderful! What a great time.
So I think a lot of what you all have said, a lot of it feeds into what my overarching assessment of all these nominations is, and it really felt to me that it was almost like they were basing these nominations on buzz right before everyone saw all these movies. As opposed to the point in time we currently are. It's very weirdly anachronistic, because if you think about all the sort of more disappointing, like Greg was talking about, Smashing Machine, I would classify Jeremy Allen White's nomination for Deliver Me from Nowhere. That was also one that people were like, oh, this is gonna be big, and then people saw it and they were like, nope, never mind. And that's still here. I think the other big one that I was like, this seems so dated, Julia Roberts for After the Hunt, right? That was big. People had a lot of expectations for that movie and for her performance. People were like, oh, she's going to be front runner in Best Actress, but that was like in May or March, like that was in like a long time ago. It was many months ago that people were saying that. Now they're not saying that. And then even Jennifer Lawrence for Die My Love, like people do like her performance legitimately, but like nobody seems to like that movie, or people are just like, yeah, that movie. So
not
it
good,
is,
Jen. It's not good.
It's strange. It's very strange that like these nominations don't seem reflective of time that has passed in terms of like the critical reception of a lot of these things. And the other thing too is like I think that explains the Avatar Fire and Ash, because people they're just it's like a placeholder nomination. It's like, well, no one actually knows whether or not this deserves a nomination in here because it hasn't come out yet, but it'll probably make $1 billion, so why not, right? It's just it's strange. The whole set of nominations, and sort of especially when you look at the anomalies or the things that people weren't expecting, do feel like weirdly dated, and maybe it's just they're just willfully ignorant about the reception of some of these movies and performances, because they're like, well, we like these people, so we still want them. So that could be, you could just kind of explain it away as being globing, but like because they want famous people in the room. But yeah, in general, it just seems weird. The other thing I wanted to respond to was what Antonio said. Wumi Musaku actually won the Gotham Awards. And what really was painful about that is she was not there. And I feel like because that category is like really chaotic and up in the air right now, in terms of frontrunner, that was like a really big opportunity. She probably didn't expect to win, or she's filming something else or whatever, right? But that would have been a key moment, because I think this season so far, I haven't seen clips of speeches yet that have sort of propelled people into a campaign, right? So, and I think that could have been her moment. Like if she had given like an amazing speech that went all over the internet, then people might just be like, oh, I guess now it's Musaku. Let's go. My disappointment was that it's very clear that Sinners is the Barbie of this year in these nominations. It's the only movie that is nominated in cinematic and box office achievement and in best drama. And I think what's going to happen on the night of the Golden Globes, and this is what I'm disappointed about, is that Sinners is going to win the box office, cinematic and box office achievement category, and win nothing else, because that's what happened to Barbie.
Although it could win score.
Okay,
I'm just saying it could also win score, which is still kind of like, here's your consolation prize.
Or Hans Zimmer for F1 could win. Like wow. That's very possible.
I think it's more likely it would be Johnny Greenwood, who has not won Oscars. I don't think he's won a Golden Globe even, but that could be part of like, you know what? One battle after another's winning 10 awards this year. Just deal with it. And that could be one of the ones. But yeah, I think that you're right. Sinners is definitely in that Barbie lane / Wicked lane. Wicked was also like that last year.
Yeah, that's the other big takeaway. Sorry, I'm getting pundit brain and running away with this. But I think what we learned from that cinematic and box office achievement category is that what people thought was Wicked and Avatar is actually Sinners. Meaning, like when it comes to the Oscars, people had spots saved for both of those movies in their Best Picture lineup, but Sinners is here, and it's a way better and more sophisticated blockbuster, and so it's just going to take the place.
We have not seen Avatar: Fire and Ash, so you don't know that.
Early reviews would indicate. Although someone explained to me what the social embargo is, because like people are like, well, we can't review it, and then they proceed to review it.
You can post reactions, but you can't write a review, was apparently which everyone I've heard has been just like, we don't know what that means, but we can only give like 1 sentence reactions, I guess, which seems bad.
So
I don't know.
I think Sinners could win original screenplay. It's right, because One Battle After Another isn't adapted. I think it could win. And what an amazing if those two win screenplay, then we've already have an excellent Oscars.
That would be great for the Academy Awards, but at the Golden Globes, it's only one screenplay category.
It's all one category.
So
right.
They're
okay.
But I agree with you that it is. I think Sinners is, I would assume, in the lead for that right now. That could be a place where Ryan, we can't, we're going to give the director award to someone else. We're giving the movie award to someone else. But Ryan Coogler, kind of like Get Out, or he'll get an award. He'll get an award for his movie.
Does Coogler have one already? He doesn't, right? He's been nominated for.
He's been nominated in movies other people working on his movies have won, Ruth Carter and Ludwig Göransson, but not him.
So I'm going to flash back to the Greg Solo Pod episode, and I will say I came out strong. I got very much behind Testament of Ann Lee and a little movie called Is This Thing On? Both of those got shellacked today, right? I mean, Amanda Seyfried did get in for Best Actress. So that's great. That is well deserved. Every time I see the Ann Lee trailer, which is hitting pretty hard now, I get re-amped up because I think it's just an incredible movie. It's really in the conversation for my top movie of the year, and to see it not make it into the comedy musical hurt. And again, I keep laughing when you all call it a musical. I can't wait till we can unpack that in like a 2.5 hour, because I still, in my head, you're picturing like a classic MGM musical where it's like, well, we got to be shaken, or whatever. So I can't wait to talk about that. But one of the things I said in that solo pod was that I wanted Bradley Cooper to get recognized just as much for this movie so that he would go make more like this. Because I think he's way better at making Is This Thing On than he was at making Maestro. And Maestro had a lot to admire. I'm not trying to diminish it. But the narrative around that movie was he's too desperate, he's too thirsty. So I kind of wanted him to get the same amount of recognition. I knew a win wouldn't happen, just so he would like make his career making this like adult comedy, Albert Brooks style movie. And I would still put Will Arnett and Laura Dern's performances up there among the best I've seen this year. And so, I mean, again, it got completely blanked. That's for me why Nouvelle Vague, I'm not going to pretend to know how to pronounce the French, just rings so hollow for me. It was an interesting experiment. It's an interesting tribute to the actual good movie that it's based on, but I don't understand why it's here when we have these nice, good, original things that we could be rewarding. So I would say both of those, that stretches beyond the Golden Globes. I think if Jen's question of who's up, who's down, those two are out. I would be shocked if either made the top 10. I would be shocked at this point if Is This Thing On gets anything at the Oscars. I think it's just going to be a critical hit in some ways.
Yeah, what's actually very useful in terms of information or data gathering about the Golden Globe nominations is because you have the split categories, and as Antonio mentioned at the top of the show, it's more expansive and therefore potentially more fun. It is also kind of one of those things where if like you couldn't even make it when there were 12 spots available, technically, right, between the two categories for actor and actress and picture, then it's like, then you have it's unlikely that you would, right? Because even a lot of these people who did make it into one of these two the split categories, a lot of them are still not going to make it at Oscar, right? So if you're not on this, you could argue that if you're not on this list, this expanded list, why would you be on the shorter version of it for the Oscars?
The exception to this is the supporting categories, which do not.
Yeah.
Which are smaller, right? And weird things can happen here. Like I think a few years back, Aaron Taylor Johnson or something won supporting actor for a movie that I don't even remember. I don't think I even saw, but he wasn't nominated for the Oscars after he won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor. So weird things can happen here, but I think you're right for the lead categories. You probably need to get into this field of 12.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think the one potential or a potential wrinkle, it's not the one, but a potential wrinkle, if we're talking about picture, this didn't really filter down too much, though it did a little bit to actor and actress, is how many international and foreign language movies are in this list, especially, I mean, we don't need to count Nouvelle Vague, but that's like 95% of it's in French. It is a Texan filmmaker, so and a Netflix production and all that good stuff. So not really, but we have that movie. We have No Other Choice. We have Sentimental Value, The Secret Agent. It Was Just an Accident. So 5 of these 12 movies are foreign language movies. I don't think anyone really thinks that because of this Golden Globe, Nouvelle Vague in the running, but are 4 international movies going to make it into the Best Picture 10? Maybe not. Like, there's enough in here, but then it's sort of like, it does feel like there's the potential for one or two more shakeups, where some of these people that are out today might have a chance. They might linger around in the 11 to 15, 11 to 17, and then because especially for movies that haven't come out yet, I'm not trying to give you hopium, Greg, but I mean neither A Testament of Anne Lee nor Is This Thing On has actually been seen. If people react to them really well, then it's possible they get a second life. Right now, they're definitely on the outs. No, there's no question about that. But I don't think that you can write anything off yet, partially because of the numbers, partially because of that international flavor here, which does carry over to the Academy. So maybe, but also because we don't really know what the Golden Globes are up to. What's their deal? They're not the Hollywood Foreign Press. They're this Penske subgroup, the same company that owns Variety and Hollywood Reporter. So I think they might be leaning more towards this. Maybe why we have moved. They still have some celebs, but they're also trying to be the bellwether more than anything else. Especially maybe in a year where we didn't really know. We had a strong couple of front runners. And then, we had a strong top 4. And then everyone was from 5 to 15 or 5 to 20 even. We don't know what the best picture race will be. And we don't know all these categories that, they may be sort of not necessarily coalescing support so much as trying to just make predictions in their way of doing this. So it's interesting, but I also think it's so easy to see a list of nominees, especially when we've been thirsty for clarification and be okay, good. We have answers. It's not always answers though, because the actual Academy voting bodies doesn't really line up with what happens at the Golden Globes.
Speaking of answers, Jen, I think you should get first crack at your excellent question in the outline. How clear is our 10? PT just gave us some good facts about it. We've kind of talked a couple different insights, but do you feel like you have a good picture of the 10 Best Picture nominees? And is there anything that's coming out of this and recent nominations kind of really soft? I think we all know there's one very clear front runner, and we should talk about that and how we feel about it at some point. But how's the 10 looking in your prognosticating mind?
I think it's definitely clearer now than it was before this week. And mainly for me, at least, in terms of PT was saying, he was sort of asking well, can 4 international features make it into Best Picture? I don't know if I would say all 4 of those, but I do think that I was debating whether or not to kind of have 3 spots for international features that the films that are in both categories. When I say that, that's what I mean. I mean, it has a nomination in international feature and in Best Picture. And I'm much more confident in doing that now than I was before, because I think these nominations sort of solidify that there is strong support for a lot of these international features. I mean, also you could just argue that the biggest winner of today was Neon, whose name got read 5 times for the entire non-English language feature category. I do think that Neon will have a strong presence in Best Picture. It's just a question of which ones. And the other day, and I think there's a lot of voters we've gone so far in terms of an international bias is the wrong word, but international preferences or perspective in the Academy, that I think certain movies that technically classify as international, people aren't going to think of them that way. You know what I mean? Sentimental Value is one part. That's partly because it's, from what I understand, a lot of it is in English. PT can confirm that, or some of it's in English.
Yeah, more than Nouvelle Vague. I would say 40% of it is in English, 30 to 40%.
And the cast is partly American, or at least Stellan Skarsgård, not American, obviously, but recognizable to a lot of American audiences. And the thing that blew my mind the other day is someone was like, Begonia is technically an international feature. And I was like, but nobody thinks about Yorgos Lanthimos as an international filmmaker anymore. He's just Yorgos. So I think that complicates things a little bit. But I don't know. I think the 2 big questions hanging over my head in terms of formulating a Best Picture 10 is how many Netflix movies make it in. And I think it's going to be fewer than people think. And that's not because of our earlier conversation. I think that's the nature. Because I think Jay Kelly, weirdly, George Clooney and Adam Sandler got in here, but then Jay Kelly misses the Best Picture category. So I think that's very telling. I think that to me, that's falling off the list. I don't think I would put it on my Best Picture 10 right now. But I don't know. I've talked too much.
It's with my impression of that movie. Have you all watched that yet?
I haven't watched it yet because I forgot that it was going to be on Netflix
I did.
already.
Yeah,
I did. It definitely felt like, oh, this is Best Picture winner 2011 or 2012. Because that was when it was at the sort of that felt like it was at a particular peak of we love movies about movies. It was Hugo versus the Artist, and then it was Argo the next year, like taking over. And Birdman, was a Hollywood actor trying to do theater, like that kind of run of stories. It would have been so good there if they had whoever the equivalent was a dozen years ago of Clooney and Sandler at this stage of their career. Would have killed. But right now it's just sort of like, okay, I don't know. Like there's enough things about art and artistry, like Sentimental Value is like also about filmmaking, but very different, but thornier and feels like it's got more meat to it. And even Sinners is about, has a huge section component, thematic element about creating art in music and how important that is. And I feel like people would just be more willing to reward that than Jay Kelly. So yeah, I think I would be surprised if Jay Kelly picks up more momentum as time goes on, but never count out famous people getting success.
We go back to Greg's original question about a clearer sense of the Best Picture 10. I took a stab at power ranking the top 10. And here's how I think it goes. One Battle After Another, Hamnet still is 2, Sinners is 3, Sentimental Value 4, Marty Supreme, which I think was a big winner in as much as it's an unseen movie that critics and the Hollywood foreign press all both seem to like a lot. Right. I mean, like it took home a critics award in like screenplay. Timothy Chalamet hasn't won an award, but he's been like runner up a couple, whatever. So that's my 5, 6 Frankenstein, 7 Begonia, 8. I'm still going to go Wicked for Good, 9 Avatar, 10 It Was Just an Accident, with other with other international features potentially like replacing Wicked or Avatar. But that would be my 10. What would you change?
Well, the thing that I've been thinking about from the Globes, maybe my biggest takeaway was we have been debating or thinking about like, okay, is there space for both Wicked and Avatar, or it has to be Wicked or Avatar? And I'm like, maybe it's neither Wicked or Avatar. And as Jen was sort of saying earlier, people are like, we got our blockbuster. It's Sinners. That's enough. Wicked for Good, that episode either has just come out or will soon come out, depending on our release schedule. You can hear what we're talking about. Well, I'm saying that only because this one might come out first because it's breaking news. I feel like Jen took that as like a knock on her editing speed, and I did not mean that. But and Avatar's Avatar. The reviews are sort of like, I don't know, like it's more of the same. But like, I don't know, are people going to be mad about more of the same? I don't know. I do feel like Avatar is going to underperform. I don't know if it'll make $1 billion. And if it makes 800 million, that will be like, what a letdown. Only visual effects for you, Avatar. And people will move on from there. So I think it's possible. I don't know in terms of a power ranking if I would take out either of those two. And I actually don't even know if I would put them behind something like Begonia, which still feels like that could very easily slide off the map if, suddenly
it's shown up consistently everywhere.
True. And
in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. And I'm into it. I like it because I like Begonia a lot. So good. I would be in favor of that. But yeah, I mean, I think the power ranking is good. Although I do feel, I do wonder if like I might switch out Avatar right now, even though I would probably.
I have a different power ranking.
Ooh.
Okay.
That I started doing the second Greg asked this question. I was like, oh, wait, what is my Best Picture 10? I was like trying to type it in the Google Doc. Okay. So this is what it would look like if you didn't have Avatar or Wicked in here, I think. I think the top echelon remains largely the same, and it is largely unchanged by the events of the past week, more or less. It's that bottom half that is sort of solidifying a little bit more for me. But I have One Battle After Another, Sinners. Then I have It Was Just an Accident. I think Hamnet has dipped a little bit. It's kind of dipped and then come back and dipped and come back. Like didn't have a strong showing at the Globe, so I dropped it down a little bit. Hamnet number 4, Sentimental value at number 5. Marty Supreme at number 6. Marty Supreme actually also struck out in the Globes relatively to what people thought it was going to do. You know what I mean? Like Timmy still got in for actor. It still got in for picture, comedy,
and
or
screenplay.
musical. But yeah. But it like, I think it didn't get score. It missed a couple people that people had thought it would.
There's two supporting, Gwyneth Paltrow and someone else who I don't.
Neither of them.
Newcomer, neither
Odessa
of them got nominated.
Something. Yeah. Neither of them got into actress anyway, but supporting actress. So I would have Marty Supreme's around 6, which is kind of where it was before, but I feel like that could take a turn when the movie hasn't actually come out yet. So that's a factor.
Once we get our Wheaties boxes.
Yes.
And people get
Greg
the jacket.
managed to. Greg influenced me today to buy the Wheaties box. I mean, I already wanted it, but he provided the opportunity and said, "Hey, it's on sale now." Okay, so Marty Supreme number 6, Frankenstein number 7. I think that has so many technical noms it's going to get that's holding steady kind of in that upper tier of the back half of this list. Begonia, as I said, has been performing pretty consistently. I think people were not expecting Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone to pop up today, and they did. 9, I have The Secret Agent. This is my gamble. I think before this week, I would have said, well, that's definitely getting into international feature, but that's about it. And now with Wagner Moura kind of picking up a lot of nominations and awards, and, don't underestimate Brazil is what we learned last year with I'm Still Here. I think that could be, we could be repeating the I'm Still Here shocks in Best Picture, and what the lead of the Brazilian movie ends up in mainstream acting category. And then the last one I'm really uncertain about. I have Train Dreams in there right now because I think it could do it. But again, is even that too many Netflix movies? Is there not enough room for Train Dreams if their Frankenstein's already here?
And are you counting One Battle and Sinners as Netflix movies already? Because then it's 4, and that's 2.
I knew you were going to make that joke.
I know.
Well, that's the other thing too, is like people are like, count how many Netflix movies you have. They can't all get in, but then no one's really talking about like then those same people have One Battle After Another, Sinners, and Weapons. It's like, well, pick which side of this debate are you on? Like, you can't just be selective about the studio and say they can't get that many movies. Anyway. So that's my list. I don't know what you think, but that's what to me that's sort of what the list would look like with the sort of blockbuster vacuum that Wicked and Avatar would create.
Here's a question for both of you, and I should have asked this to Antonio maybe first. Is this your ranking of most likely to get nominated or most likely to win Best Picture?
Most likely to get nominated, especially as the list goes further down.
Right. Well,
win. Most likely to win.
Yeah, because I think that's right. I think like Sinners is second place to get nominated, but I don't think it's in second place to win.
Yeah. Mine was I was doing mine by nomination.
Yeah, so I think that otherwise you guys are in a similar sort of place, and that once we get down to 8, 9, and 10, they're not likely to win anyway. But that makes sense to keep the blockbusters there because it's like if they're in, like, does that become? There's always that populist push. And despite the sort of One Battle is like an action movie, that may start to be the like, it's too political. Should it be something else? Maybe it should be the movie about standing up to a fascist regime in Oz, or it should be the movie about colonialism and standing up to the dangers of colonialism. Non-political blockbusters. But yeah, I think those are both good lists, and I think that's fair. And it's that zone around, basically after Frankenstein and Begonia, where it's like, you guys are in line with everything 1 to 8 in a slightly different order. What happens? So now we're sort of down to those last 2 spots, unless something like Frankenstein starts to fade or Marty Supreme fades once it comes out. But, now we're looking at 2 spots for 5 or 6 movies with like another 5 outside that people like, but are not getting traction. So interesting.
Jen took my main insight that I was going to say. I'm sad because I feel like Hamnet is looking soft in the last week or so. It just seems to be losing some momentum. I'm confused by its release schedule. I think it's finally as wide as it's going to be, or maybe that's next weekend, but I think it was this past weekend. So it's a little hard to see, how it's doing without people actually getting to see it all the time. But it's just feeling that hit piece, and then I think it feels too traditional in some ways. So the other question I want to throw on this category then I alluded to before. So I would characterize last year as in like August, everybody's like, it's Anora, get ready, it's Anora. And then we spent the whole fall not believing it was Anora, only for December and January to be like, guess what, guys? I think it's Anora. Like, we did it. We knew it from the whole time. Whereas this year, I would say we never saw that dip. It's like one battle after another came out, and everybody's like, this is it. This is Best Picture. And nobody has changed that for an instant. You both just had it at the top of your ranking. So, twofold question: how do you feel about that? And is there something that could have any chance of upsetting it? And I will say, just because I didn't get to answer the last one, I will say that makes me feel resentment towards it as a front runner, which then I'm like, wait, I actually really liked that movie. But when something feels so inevitable like that, I start to root for like the underdogs. And that's, I've talked now, this is my third year being like, I like to pick a weird pony and just like race that to the end, even though I know it doesn't have a chance to win. So I will do that again this year. But I feel like when you have something so inevitable, it's not even the backlash and the backlash to the backlash to the backlash. It's just like, do you start to feel resentful, or do you still just think one battle after another rules, just give it all the awards?
I'll answer that first. So I think the better comp for this season is Oppenheimer. Because Oppenheimer, we were less doubtful of its chances than Anora. But it did have the similar thing where it's like, well, I guess it's just Oppenheimer. And then people were like, but is it just Oppenheimer? But really, we were only asking that question to keep ourselves entertained and not because there was any reason to ask that question. Do you know what I mean? And there were some moments of like, I think everything fell into place for Oppenheimer, and it just steamrolled. And then we just kind of were like, well, maybe it's something else, but really it was just still steamrolling. And I think the one, I can't believe I forgot to say that this is the thing that made me really happy, but maybe because my brain had already solidified it so much that it was not news anymore. But Benicio del Toro, as I joked in our opening, going from, well, Sean Penn's definitely getting in, but like, are people going to recognize Benicio del Toro's performance? I don't know. That it would be nice because I really like it, but I don't know. And now it's flipped where it's like, oh, he's clearly out front, right? If someone's getting nominated for supporting actor, it's him. I think they still both get in, but I think he's their positions of power have rightly swapped. And apologies to Jasmine. I know she liked Sean Penn's performance better. But yeah, so I mean, like, so I think it's, and am I resentful of that, like Greg? Not necessarily. It's a great movie, and it's a great movie that I'm happy it's going to be celebrated as much as it will be. You know what I mean? I'm not mad about that necessarily. Would I rather have some more? Let me just put it this way. If you are like, oh man, award season is going to be so boring, it's going to be one battle the whole time, just remember last season and just hope we don't have a movie that completely detonates like Emilia Perez. Okay? Like, remember that. Remember what we had to deal with last year. And wouldn't it be nice to just have smooth sailing across award season? But yeah.
5 Oscar nominations to the Smashing Machine. Suddenly the upstart challenging. I think my interest in following along with awards, I like the game theory aspect of it and trying to like plot the steps along the way and all of that. But I ultimately want movies that I think are really good to win awards and to sort of secure that part of the canon of cinema and sort of say, okay, like this was the movie for this year that was picked at that time in a process that's always flawed and sometimes comes up with bad answers. But I think that this is far and away my favorite movie of the year. I thought it was the best movie of the year. There's a couple of movies that are in this 12, Sinners and No Other Choice, that I have up really high as well. If either of those movies won, that would be great. And there's a bunch that I thought were, not too far behind. So I don't think I would be mad if they won, but I would feel a little bit of like, what are we doing? Why are we rewarding this movie when, and there's some where I can see a narrative and I can see a reason why maybe everyone coalesces around it was just an accident because the director has just been convicted to go to prison again if he returns to his home country. And people are like, that's partially, that's part of the text of the movie, but also it's the reality, and people could be like it's not about filmmaking, but there's a meta element to it that suddenly people rally around that, and that would be fine. But I would still think that the better movie didn't win for the year, because I think One Battle is better. So I will say also the excitement around seeing it and being pumped, as I have been slowly rewatching all of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, and it's just my God, they're all there's 3 of them out of, I think he's done this is his 10th or 11th, and there's 3 of them that are only great and not exceptional, but yeah, he's due. He's it's kind of sucks to stump for a privileged white guy to be why isn't he getting stuff? But he deserves it. He's been so good, and this is such a good movie. But has an argument to be his best movie. Would be great. So yeah, I'm not really bummed about it, even though it does mean maybe we end up doing slightly fewer awards race check-in episodes like this, because it'll just sort of be hey, you know what's changed? Nothing. All right, we'll see you later.
As the one of the 4 of us who was Oppenheimer on Oppenheimer, I'm actually pretty happy. I mean, One Battle is my favorite movie of the year by far as well. And to answer one of your questions, Greg, I don't see anything that I haven't seen yet supplanting it as the number 1 movie, and I don't see it supplanting it in the race. And I don't know, part of what's kind of exciting now about thinking about the front runners in the major categories is that when I think through, if I made a pick right now as to who I thought was a front runner in each category, I would be happy with each of these. And I don't think I'm just hope dicting. I think that there's a basis for things, and I think that it will satisfy for me, One Battle obviously for picture and director. I think actually Jessie Buckley, I think can still pull it out for best actress. I think that we've gotten critics and whatever the Golden Globe organization is right now, but I think actors are going to love Hamnet and are going to respect Hamnet, right? And I we haven't reviewed it yet, but I left that movie a mess because it was just so much. It was just it's hard not to feel just to swell, to have your heart swell during that film. I think Chalamet is finally going to get his Oscar for best actor. I think the strength of Marty Supreme and just Timothy Chalamet, just relentlessness, is gonna take it. I think Skarsgård is going to take it for supporting actor, Taylor for supporting actress, and then I think it's a One Battle and Sinners for the screenplays, and then I'm happy, right? I mean, there are a few things that I haven't seen yet, so I'm curious about The Testament of Anne Lee, and I want to see that, of course, and a few others, but I think that those are they're definitely firm for nominations, and I think that they're, if not at the very top, close to the top, and I could see all of that happening and me being very happy.
Does anyone think it's possible for picture and director to split?
No, it would be terrible to split this year.
I mean, it's always possible, but it would be wild. Wouldn't
that be the upset if there were going to be an upset?
I mean, I assume you think Paul Thomas Anderson would win director and another movie would win best picture.
And something else would win picture.
I think the biggest upset would be him not winning director. I think that's in the way that I thought Jessie Buckley was locked in best actress. That was the lock above the lines. That's maybe been shaken because of Rose Byrne, although Rose Byrne also has that vibe of, and I feel bad saying this, amongst friends and fellow lovers of hard truths, but it does feel a little bit like Marianne Jean-Baptiste last year, where it's look at all these critics awards, and the Academy is what? What's with this movie? I don't know. And they go somewhere else. But Jessie Buckley doesn't seem as locked in. I think Paul Thomas Anderson is locked in. Maybe not as locked in as Avatar for visual effects, but that's just based on the principle that Avatar will always win visual effects. And who knows, maybe that won't be true again this year. Everyone might be over it. They should have waited another decade before they put it out.
What at this point feels like, do you agree with what PT said in terms of Rose Byrne is the Marianne Jean-Baptiste of this year, and her spot is not secured, even though a lot of people are saying because she's winning so much in this early stage of the season that is that now she could actually get in, and we're more confident about her being in Best Actress. What is the critics pushing for something or hoping for something versus like what reality is going to set in when the Academy weighs in or the industry weighs in, like the actors?
Greg is the only one who's seen that film, but I will say that the critical reception makes me even more excited. I was already excited based on Greg's recommendation, but it just wasn't in theaters by the time for me to see it, and so I've been waiting. But Rose Byrne is already well respected and beloved in Hollywood and has a stronger presence there than Marianne Jean Baptiste did. So I think that I think that she's going to get a nomination. I think she's actually pretty safe for a nomination. And the question is whether she can pull out a win. And I'm going to kick that to Greg because he's actually seen it and has seen all the major contenders. So what do you think, Greg? Who would you give it to?
It's really hard for me to determine. And, I to my comments, I was going to say a couple minutes ago, but it's like an hour ago at this point. But I would, in my head, if it was Greg picking his favorite, I would put Amanda Seyfried, Jessie Buckley, and Rose Byrne all in the mix. I think clearly Amanda Seyfried has fallen back. So, she did get a nominee for the Golden Globe, and actually, there's a bunch of weird. I don't know if you guys know this. The Golden Globes also honor this thing called television. And there are a bunch of these movie stars are also on TV this year. Let's nominate them in both. I think Elordi's another one of those, right?
Yeah, he got 2 nominations, one for film, one for TV.
Yeah. So Seyfried is nominated that way. So from those 3, Seyfried does everything Jessie Buckley does, and then she sings and dances, and almost to beat by beat does everything Jessie Buckley does to the plot of that movie. And yet I think I would still give it to Buckley with Rose Byrne probably in second, because I just think it feels to me like Hamnet gets one. In the steamroll of one battle after another, they let Hamnet get one award, and it has to be Jessie Buckley if you're giving that award only one. And Rose Byrne, that movie is smaller. A24 does like to spend a lot of money on campaigns, and they don't have, we got to see the Marty Supreme of it all and how that campaign comes together. But it feels like they might put a lot of resources and time behind Rose Byrne. So there's a chance, but I think honestly in my heart, I still have to give it to Jessie Buckley, who there is one scene, which we will talk about, I assume later this week, that is just unbelievable. And like you watch it and, Jessie Buckley for me is somebody who my eyes are always locked on. She's completely magnetic. I always think of her season of Fargo, which was like so bizarrely wonderful and strange. Sorry, that's a television show. I don't know if you guys know what television is. Sorry, Fargo was a movie and then it became a television show.
She's great in The Lost Daughter.
I was going to say, or The Lost Daughter, where she steals every scene she's in. So I'm always locked in, and that's where I was. But I'm like, this is fine. And then there are a couple scenes that just are unbelievably good, especially the ending. So I still give it to Buckley, but I love Rose Byrne's performance. I love that movie. We mentioned there are 2 strong. There's kind of 3 strong postpartum depression movies this year, and it's funny to me that that we're still talking about Jennifer Lawrence, because I do think Rose Byrne's performance is not technically postpartum. It's just the difficulties of motherhood. The child is 10, so like you can't call it postpartum anymore. It is still postpartum, but it's not that specific moment in being a mother, and it's just very real. There's a moment where Rose Byrne has to pull the cheese off her daughter's pizza because the daughter's having a temper tantrum. And the way she eats the cheese, you just feel every moment of it as a parent. You're like, yes, I've been there, where there's like crap on my hand and I could go walk across the room to throw it away, or I could just stuff this cheese in my mouth and be done with it. And,
oh, no.
and it's Rose Byrne. So you're like, that's one of the most beautiful people in the world, just like being exactly like me. We're the same Rose Byrne. So.
Greg, do you agree with her being categorized in the musical or comedy category? That seems really bizarre based on what I've heard about this movie.
This movie is dark and really upsetting. I do not understand why it's there. There is one sequence I remember being very comedic in a very kind of Conan-y way, but it's not Conan. It's just kind of his aesthetic and so on. I don't understand. I find this to be like, when it came out, one of the early reviews was like uncut gems for moms. And that's the vibe I got watching this movie, which I would not say is musical or comedy. I assume that was a drama, PT.
I think, yes. I think that there was a, actually, I don't know. Maybe Uncut Gems wasn't a comedy. I don't know if it got nominated. I think that maybe the musical chairs of the, studios deciding what to submit in, maybe they thought, oh, look at Julia Roberts. Look at Tessa Thompson. Look at Jennifer Lawrence. And Jessie Buckley. Drama's going to be a mess. Let's go over to musical or comedy. And, as time went on, suddenly, in general, I think across all three of these split categories, musical or comedy is stronger than drama as a collective. So, I think if they had a do-over, they might have put her into motion picture drama, though, at the time when they were probably making this choice, it was Jessie Buckley is a steamroller. Let's get out of her way. And maybe we can, whoever wins in the other category, maybe has a shot to be the upset, the Cinderella story. But which again could be what happens here, because Rose Byrne's been winning all the critics' prizes almost exclusively, at least the two major ones.
So yeah, two things. I was going to ask who in the actress, musical, or comedy wins at the Golden Globes out of that list. And then my second thing was, have any of you actually seen Hedda? Because PT mentioned Tessa Thompson, so now I'm bringing it up.
It's on Amazon Prime, and I have hovered my finger over the remote a couple of times, and then been like, I don't know about it.
It's really good.
I'm sure it is, but
I was sad Nina Haas didn't. It's purely because the supporting actresses one category is supposed to split into two, but that would have been great for both of them to get nominations here.
Oh, I think Rose Byrne wins for Best Actress Musical Comedy.
I think Rose Byrne does as well.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if I had to pick somebody out, I think it's her, but Cynthia Erivo might just get. I mean, there's also Kate Hudson, which apparently this Neil Diamond movie is good, and this is the best work of her career. So Cynthia Erivo and Kate Hudson feel like more Golden Globes-y picks to me, but maybe the Globes are just pure bellwether now, which seems to be what they want to be. But.
And remember, Lily Gladstone won for Killers of the Flower Moon, so they have not awarded Emma Stone another time. So maybe they give it to her for Begonia. Like, they're like, oh, this is, we got to do this. But I think that's stretching it. I think that, but to Greg's point of, she's very famous, and that would be a glamorous person winning, which again is a Globes move. But I think Greg made a good point. Like, Rose Byrne is very famous. She's been in a lot of things. She's had a couple of those television shows, and she's also been in a bunch of comedies. She has a very small but crucial part in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. We all remember. And,
single tear.
Yep. And it's so I think that is the most likely. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe she'll do something crazy. They'll unearth some terrible tweets.
Okay, let's not put that out there.
Yeah.
For male actor drama, it looks like it's Michael B. Jordan versus Wagner Moura. And that looks like an exciting race to me. Do you think that I'm right that it's between those two?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think everyone else is just lucky to be there.
Yes.
Yeah, but who do you think ultimately pulls that one out?
The answer to that speaks to how strong the station agent is. Does it have the shot of actually
secret agent?
Agent. What did I say?
Fernando Torres won. That's what started the whole upset.
Yeah.
Of I'm Still Here in Best Picture, right? Because she won. That's how people were like, "Oh wait, what?" Because she won her Best Actress in a drama. So I think Wagner Moura is definitely possible, but I think it depends. Like, if I'm going by the logic I laid out earlier in terms of like Sinners gets box office achievement, and that's its win of the night, then maybe Michael B. Jordan. But wouldn't it be fantastic if Michael B. Jordan wins this, slam dunks his speech, and then it's like, hey, now Best Actor is a race, right?
Yeah.
And then Timmy Chalamet wins the comedy. What if he wins? I think he's the front runner in the comedy actor category, and so the two of them.
Is everyone just discarding Leo? Because like we spent so much time talking about how one battle is going to dominate, and yet no one has proposed that Leonardo DiCaprio is going to win Best Actor.
I mean, Antonio had a very nice sort of let's spread the wealth approach. I do think it's possible that one battle after another has an everything everywhere all at once type above the lines, and then Oppenheimer type below the lines, and wins like 11 or 12 awards. I guess 12 would be crazy. That's the more than anyone's ever won. But is up there, is in 10 or 11 awards. It could definitely happen. And if Leo winning, I think would be a real pivot point. Like I think it winning both supporting acting categories wouldn't be too surprising. But then do they also put Leo over the top? Are they it's if they win supporting actor, someone's getting a second or a third, between Penn and Del Toro. Do we, I think there could be a little like, are we sure Leo doesn't deserve two? Like he got his one, but everyone knows, no one thinks the one was for his best work. Like, could this actually be an award that is like one of his best performances? So I think that could be there. I also say don't sleep on Ethan Hawke. I think Ethan Hawke could really build a strong narrative because he's never won. And it's like, what have we been doing? Like we've missed him a couple of times where he should have maybe at least been in the running, but he didn't get nominated. So, I think that, that he could definitely end up not nominated and just on the outside. But if he gets in, I could see that being especially if one battle is going to win a bunch. They're like, let's not give it to Leo. We're not going to cave to the Brazilians. All due respect to the Brazilians. Like, let's give it to Ethan Hawke. But yeah, I think in this race, it feels like it's Tibby is in the lead, and then everyone else is trying to pull him back. But
so Sebastian Stan won this category last year.
Yeah, I mean, Greg's still fist pumping.
Yeah, but for the right one that time, right?
Different.
It was for a different man.
Yeah. Which you've all watched since then, I'm sure.
It was great.
Yeah. Antonio did at the time. Antonio's innocent.
Wow. Okay.
But that leads to my last question, and it can be a speed round question. After kind of the state of the race, what are you most chomping at the bit to see? What is like, if you had the Academy portal, what are you going upstairs and watching as soon as we end recording? That's on your list still.
Secret Agent.
Does the Academy portal have Avatar, Fire and Ash? Because I do really want to see that, and that's one thing I would watch right now. The movie I most want to see is Hamnet, which I still have not seen, but I don't want to watch that right now because I think that's late night sads that I don't know if I want to get into. But tomorrow morning I would watch Hamnet.
I have my Secret Agent ticket reserved, so I'm going to instead say Marty Supreme, because that's the one where I'm mad that I have to wait the actual release date on. Last November, I got so mad that we couldn't see anything. And this year, I've been very fortunate, and I've seen, and I picked my right screenings for things that were later. So Marty Supreme is the biggest hole, I think, in my viewing still. Jen?
Yeah, I'm torn. I'm probably the most behind out of everyone in terms of things I've actually seen. But the Secret Agent, I'm super curious about. I think the one we haven't mentioned that's more a player in international feature potentially, but Surat got a surprise score nomination at the Golden Globes. So that movie's way more on my radar than I would have thought. So that's the one I'm most curious about. We're like, wait, what's the deal with this movie? I haven't really heard
big
anything
trailer on No Other Choice today when I saw it for Surat. So it's
same for building... it was just an accident that Antonio and I saw today, and it looked good. It looked like I was definitely like, yeah, I want to see this movie.
And then the other one, Blue Moon, just because I feel like people were saying Ethan Hawke Best Actor, Best Actor, but no one was really talking about Blue Moon the movie as a whole, right? It was only about Ethan Hawke, and so now that it pops up in Best Picture, musical or comedy here, I'm like, what? Also, the premise of that movie really sounds like something I would like because it's about old-timey Hollywood musicals, like. So,
like the Testament of Ann Lee,
because I wasn't originally planning to see that, honestly, until a nomination happened. All right, any other closing thoughts? I think we went through it. We didn't mention Chase Infinity. That I feel like is shameful, but she has more of a campaign ahead of her than she previously did.
Yes.
Which is nice.
I'll just close by saying I'm so glad we're really in it now. It feels so good to be actually in the game. And, we love our summer and we love our fall festival season, but now's the prime time for the show. And it's great to talk about it with you three people.
Aw, thanks, Greg. Yeah, and it's
sorry,
not
I
going to
didn't
stop.
realize you were still on the call, Jen. Sorry. Yeah.
So Critics' Choice actually is going to be televised before Golden Globes, which has never happened before, as far as I know, at least in recent history. Golden Globes typically has the honor of being like, we're kicking off the televised awards part of award season and is the launch pad for a lot of Oscar campaigns. And so I'm curious to see how the reversal, the switch in the timeline is going to impact the impact of these winners. That'll be fun. All right, nice. Antonio, I'm glad we could go through these nominations. Thank you for your wisdom. Where can folks find you? And I know there's only one place.
You can find me on Letterboxd at Aelefano, Aelefano. Greg, where can they find you?
They can also find me on Letterboxd. I'm at Eyeoncanon, EYEONCANON. Desperately trying to get to movie number 600 with
you madman.
22 days left. Will I get there? Will I not? Check me out. And while you're doing that, maybe check out PT. Where can people find you?
Oh, also on Letterboxd with way too many movies, but still somehow 200 fewer than you. At PT McNiff, PTMCNIFF is the name there. You can also find the show there at LTR Pod. You can look for us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Long Take Review. You can email us, thelongtakereview@gmail.com, or you can just follow the podcast and subscribe and add and do whatever the mechanism is on your podcast server of choice. But subscribe to us and listen to new episodes. We've got a couple already banked and a few already scheduled for all these exciting movies we haven't talked about yet. So we're pumped. Like Greg said, we're in the great game now.
Wake Up Dead Man also didn't get any references talked about tonight, which is rough. And don't forget, Andor got nominated. Diego Luna. Yay!
But only Diego Luna. Like, what's up with the actual show?
It's okay.
Anyway.
Right. If anyone should have gotten a double film TV nom, it should have been Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Like, what are we doing?
Jen, where can folks find you?
They can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Sopchockchai, SOPCHOCKCHAI, and on Letterboxd at Qui-Gon Jen. Shout out to my students who might be listening to this because they were like, "You're on Letterboxd?"
Nice.
Josh O'Connor's a good pick for critics push versus like reality, right? Do you still hear lots of critics pushing him on something? Like they seem evenly
like people
split.
have mostly given up on him now.
I just still hear him mentioned a lot that he's really good in all three, but History of Sound people forget about.
I could see some of the more local critics potentially, especially if the bigger categories start to coalesce even more than they are now. I kind of feel like the Golden Globes, especially supporting actor, the six that are there, it's like, yep, it's one of those are going to be left out. And it's five of those six are going to be in. But so maybe some of the more local critics groups will start to do things like, let's nominate Josh O'Connor for Wake Up Dead Man, or
I'm just saying, Josh O'Connor, you get that tuxedo pressed for LTR night, buddy. I'm not gonna forget you. We're gonna get all of those performances.
We might need to this year actually do a best overall year
special award.
Best year.
That's
kind of what we did with Timothée Chalamet last year.
I know, and that's why I think maybe it should be a separate award.
Yeah.
Or it would be fun if where can we fit in all of the Josh O'Connor movies from this year?
Well, and I say all that, and I still missed one. There are so many of them.
Yeah, there's so many.
Rebuilding, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if Greg missed it, it didn't come out.